Have we recomputed the new official finishing positions with the 21.4 second?
The revised results are being developed now.
See, I'm just...
Who are we declaring as the winner of the race?
Blake Young is the winner of the race, followed by Tommy Hayden. Jake Zemke is third. Ben Brostrom is fourth. John Hopkins would be fifth. Josh Hayes, after the penalty assessment, will be sixth. And Chris Ulrich will be seventh. Taylor Knapp, and then down from there.
See, I'm not trying to be a stickler on this. I'm trying... I mean, the sadness in what happened is we saw a great race. But the whole time, I don't understand what's going on. It's like meaningless. And Josh is embarrassed, and everyone on the podium's embarrassed. And they don't really know what happened or why it happened. And Josh agreed, yeah, I should have gotten, you know, geez, I was lucky. I don't know why, you know. So it's like, there was a great race, but it was like thrown away, you know. And so I'm hoping that there's you know, it's going to be an easy decision next time. But I like Dave having asked the question a different way. But I don't even want that question. I don't care when the red flag came out. If someone's assessed a penalty, and then they're starting on the front row, they're not assessed a penalty because the penalty is completely in your control, regardless of when a red flag comes out. There's no you got lucky. If there's a penalty, there's got to be a penalty. There can't be a, oh, you got lucky.
Peter, I understand what you're saying. I made the decision. Right? The decision falls on me, and this is a lesson learned. And if anybody needs for me to explain to them why and what, I'll be happy to explain it to them. Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I'm sorry.
I have a question. The rule book, it says, as an example, if there's a red flag on the 10th lap and everybody hasn't completed the 9th lap, you go back to scoring from the 8th lap. I believe that's what it says. That wasn't, am I right about that? Yes. Okay, so that wasn't followed in this case because we were going from the 4th to the 3rd, or am I wrong?
Well, they were working the 4th lap, not the entire field was working the 4th lap, so they go back to the last completed lap. When you have the field that has done the last completed lap, you can use that running order. We were working the 4th lap, but it wasn't completed. The last completed lap was the 3rd. Right. That's how we got the running order, which in that case...
But aren't you supposed to go 2 laps back?
Only if the entire field, if you have lapped guys, like for example, if the entire field is on the same lap. Okay. Okay. You just go back 1 lap, boom. All right. In this case, we were working the 4th lap. I might have this wrong. Actually.
You're actually starting lap 5.
Right.
When the red flag came out.
Right. You might catch me there, Henny.
No, I think you're right about that. If you were starting lap 5, then you went to lap 3.
We were working lap 5. The whole field hadn't finished 4, but the whole field had finished 3.
Right. So went back 2.
And when were you made aware that Josh hadn't in fact cleared it? You got just basically bad information from timing and scoring. Is that it?
That's correct. I went off of eyewitness of the flagging at the end of the pit exit, and also from timing and scoring. Correct. And I was actually in discussion and told the parties involved, I'm working on this information. I'll let you know. And frankly, I waited till I heard the information I needed, and that's what I based my decision on.
Where do you watch the race from?
From the start, I was on pit lane.
Okay. And do you go to a tower or anything?
If I need to be pulled in for a specific review, absolutely for a review, I'll be feet up. I can come right across here and review.
So you were originally fed incorrect information by timing and scoring.
Correct.
And I was on pit lane, and other eyewitnesses were coming up to you and telling you that they saw Josh Hayes still on pit lane for the red flag, or when the red flag came. But you had to go with your officials, what they were telling you.
Right. What I explained to, and I think the eyewitnesses you described were some of the Jordan guys.
Protesters.
Right, exactly. Basically what I wanted to rely on was the absolute minute that race control said red flag and told them, and I have that information here. And that's what I asked them for. And I told all the parties there, listen, this is what's going to be my criteria. Now, perhaps they weren't going to agree with that call, but I said, I'm going to get the facts. And when I get those facts, this is the decision, I'm gonna make this decision, and that's when I told him what it was. When I got that information, that's what I based my decision off of. However, afterwards, you asked me exactly when it was. I would say a better part of 45 minutes later, maybe an hour later. I got the information, said, okay, at this exact second to the thousandth is when the red flag officially was called, and at this exact second to the thousandth is when the timing loops said that his transponder crossed the line. And unfortunately, it didn't back me up.
Do you have the discretion of, instead of all or nothing, putting in a poll or making him redo the penalty, could you have said, well, he came back out on track, he was 5th, we'll start him from 5th?
Well, a lot of people have asked me about that, because when he came back out on the track, especially now, right, the track was red, he did cross the start-finish line back here, partially through his penalty. One of the considerations I had, well, both him and Taylor, perhaps we can start him on the back row. Would that be fair? However, what swayed me away from that, frankly, is that Josh did make the effort to do a ride-through. Taylor had not yet. So I felt that since we both called them on jump starts, their penalties should have been the same.
Speaking on discretionary powers, I mean, so, you said you're gonna have to make judgment calls. And for instance, Danny Estlake, you judged his start at Daytona 200. He did not gain a competitive advantage. But in this case, Josh Hayes pretty clearly jumped the start. And on the restart, he started from pole position and pretty clearly did not serve a penalty. I mean, isn't there some room in there that you can make a judgment and assess that penalty so that he has a penalty for jumping the start?
You mean if the facts didn't back me up for me to say, you know what, I made the wrong call, and after the fact assessing the penalty, is that what you're asking me?
Well, the thing was, he's restarting from, pole position,
Well, again, Dave, everyone, I made that call based off of what I thought that he had in fact served the penalty in my interpretation, that he made the conscious effort to do it, and at the time I based off of the track. He made it back on the track before it went red, and that's what I based it off of. He made the decision. He let the guy back by. He checked himself on the start in that vein, and that's my motivation there. Okay. Perhaps you don't agree with it. I understand. Perhaps it's very different from historic precedents. However, that was my interpretation.
Well, we just need to understand. So in other words, next time, if this happened again, and the rider in question cleared pit lane,
You're going to put me on the spot here, aren't you?
before the red flag, then the rider assessed the penalty would be starting from the pole position after the red flag, having been assessed the penalty.
I would prefer not to be in that position again. However, I made that decision based
Well,
on what I thought.
I mean, rules have to have predictability. So
Right. Well, and I want to explain myself because obviously the call in Daytona with Danny, some of the cuts that we saw at Auto Club, that guys, the self-governing competitive advantage thing, the kind of the gist of this whole deal. This does open itself up to interpretation, and I have to strive very hard to be consistent from week in and week out. Everybody was very supportive of me, saying, okay, the call, we understand the call, you explain yourself the call at Daytona, now what are you going to do the next time? What are you going to do the third time? Or are you going to be consistent across the board? And I have to strive, absolutely strive to do that, and I understand that potentially I've opened myself up to saying, wow, this guy's making calls. However, we feel that reasonable enforcement and interpretation of the rules is what's called for, not just absolute, all the time, black and white, come hell or high water. This guy broke the rule, he's going to get nailed on it. To use Josh's, I wasn't in here during the interview, and if Josh said I kind of got a gimme or whatever he said, I look forward to talking to him about it. But again, y'all, I made the interpretation based off the information that was given to me. I made the call.